There's a town on the map. Labeled marked roads led to it. But when you arrive, nothing. No buildings, no signs, not even ruins. Locals say it never existed, yet records prove it did. So how does a town vanish overnight? And why does no one talk about it? Tonight we'll explore the story of Eastdale, the ghost town erased from memory and reality. Old atlases from the 1950s show Eastdale clearly. Population 732. Located between two highways marked in black ink. But newer maps. No trace, not even a dirt road. State databases list no such town. Still aerial photos from 1962 show buildings. Small rooftops, a church steeple. So if Eastdale never existed, what are we seeing from the sky? A local archivist found an envelope postmarked Eastdale, June 1954. Stamped, processed, delivered. The zip code doesn't match any known town today. And here's the twist. The USPS has no record of that office ever existing. No employee records, no deliveries. Just one envelope and an official stamp. Where did that infrastructure go? And more importantly, why was it scrubbed so completely? In 1982, historian Walter Hargrove claimed Eastdale was real. He said he visited once as a child and remembered the red church, the bakery, the quiet park. But when he returned decades later, there was nothing. No town, no path. His peers called it a fabrication. But Walter never backed down, until the day he vanished mid-lecture. On the outskirts of where Eastdale should be, there's a plot of land fenced, overgrown. Locals call it the old lot. No tombstones, no names, just rows of indentations. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed, coffins lie beneath. But no death records, no burials listed. The land isn't zoned as a cemetery. Who lies there? And why was this the only part of Eastdale that couldn't be erased? A single microfilm reel from the 1950 census lists Eastdale. 200 families. A mayor, 3 businesses, a schoolhouse. But here's the catch. No other records match, no taxes, no deeds. One reel and nothing else. Archivists tried to digitize it, but every scan came out blank. One technician claimed, "It's like the data refuses to be copied." Explorers found a single metal streetlight. Rusted, cracked, deep in the woods. Stamped at the base, Eastdale, 1951 municipal. No power lines nearby. No path leading to it. Just a monument to something long gone. They tried to move it, but every attempt failed. Bolts wouldn't loosen. Generators failed. Even cutting torches lost heat. Almost as if it wants to stay rooted. School records in a nearby county list transfer students from Eastdale in 1953. 7 names, but those names never appear again in any school system. No graduation, no employment, no marriages. Like they vanished after that year. Parents from the era refused to speak about them. One teacher only whispered. They drew things, shapes no child should know. A 1977 memo from the U.S. Geological Survey included a note. Eastdale sector removed from next revision, per agency request. But no agency is listed. No initials, no justification. Mapmakers followed orders. The town was erased from national maps in 1978. Only one technician scribbled a final note in pencil. Don't look for it, it looks back. Multiple attempts to geolocate Eastdale using satellite imaging yield different results. Each year the location seems to shift slightly. A quarter mile east, then south, then gone entirely. One researcher noticed the shifts follow lunar cycles. Another claimed the location resets every 28 days. It's almost as if the land moves, or the memory of it does. A ham radio hobbyist recorded a voice in 1983. A woman saying, "We never left, we never left." It looped for 19 minutes. Broadcast from coordinates near Eastdale's original site. The FCC opened a brief inquiry. Case closed due to lack of signal source. But the tape, it's still stored in a safe deposit box. Never leaked. Never digitized. In October 1991, hunters claimed to find a church in the woods. Red brick, broken cross, wooden doors. They returned the next day with a camera. But the building was gone. All that remained, a rectangle of scorched earth. The strange part, they all remembered a different hymn playing inside. No source, no speakers. One whispered, "We weren't supposed to hear that." Every 11 years, someone researching Eastdale disappears. Writers, explorers, archivists. Their notes left behind. But never the people. All within 40 miles of Eastdale's last known coordinates. The pattern goes back to 1955. But no agency connects the dots. Or maybe they do. And we're not meant to know. Only one person holds the last printed documents. A retired librarian from Harwood County. She kept them hidden in a locked cabinet. She won't speak on camera. Won't let the pages be scanned. Only said one thing. "If you read these, something will come looking." And then she closed the drawer. A hiker found a wooden door standing upright in the middle of a clearing. Not attached to anything. Just there. No hinges, no frame. When he touched the handle, he blacked out for 6 hours. Woke up miles away, shoes missing, compass broken. He never returned. But his GPS logged the coordinates. And the door has since disappeared. A student journalist named Cara Reynolds went looking for Eastdale in 2003. She took a voice recorder. Only one clip remains. 5 minutes of silence, then frantic breathing. She whispers, "They say me." Then static. Cara was never found. The recorder, mailed anonymously to her college 2 months later. With no return address. Meteorologists have long noted something strange. Storm systems break around the Eastdale region. Rain curves away. Wind slows down. Clouds stall or vanish. Satellite data shows it too. As if something pushes weather back. It's not a mountain, not elevation, but the atmosphere treats Eastdale like a solid object. That isn't there. A declassified CIA training manual from 1968 includes handwritten numbers in the margin. They match coordinates of Eastdale's last known location. No mention in the body of the text. Just a circle and one word, obscura. That term appears nowhere else in the document. The file was signed out 17 times, but only returned once. Locals from neighboring counties refused to approach the forest after sunset. Old warnings passed down, never written. Don't shine lights toward the trees. Don't whistle. Don't say its name after dark. When asked, they deflect. Say it's just folklore. But some keep radios on at night. Volume low. Waiting for something. That isn't wind. A 1949 bus route once included Eastdale as stop 14. Driver logs show daily pickups. But all surviving passengers from those routes. They don't remember that stop. Some skip directly from 13 to 15 in their stories. Others claim they fell asleep during that segment every time. The depot has no bus 14 on record now. But a rusted sign still lies in storage. Eastdale, do not exit. An Eastdale land deed from 1947 was stored in a public archive. Perfect condition until someone touched it. A stain began to spread from the corner. Dark, oily. The document shriveled within hours. No other records were affected. The staff marked it as chemical degradation. But one archivist quit that week. He only left a note. It's not paper, it's memory. Campers report hearing sounds above them near Eastdale's forest edge. Not birds, not planes, but laughter, children, old radio static, all coming from straight overhead where the sky is empty. Some describe music boxes. Others hear whispered numbers. When they record it, there's nothing, just silence. One hiker claimed. The trees echo what hasn't happened yet. In 1997, a psychiatric patient in Georgia drew Eastdale in perfect detail. Street names, shops, landmarks. He'd never been there. Never left the state. When shown aerial photos, he smiled. Said it's still growing. No one believed him. Until 5 months later, he vanished from a locked ward. Door still sealed. Only the drawing remained. Now with one new street added. An antique shop owner near Eastdale sold an old desk clock. Wooden, dusty. He swore it was broken. But each night it ticked backward. Slow, precise. And when rewound, it chimed 13 times. The buyer kept it for 2 weeks. Then called, panicked. Something knocking from inside it. No one answered the door that night. Aerial scans show a perfect circle of dead trees surrounding Eastdale's location. Exactly 1 mile wide. Every tree inside the radius is brittle. Colorless. Nothing grows there, no moss, no fungi. Birds fly around it, never over. Scientists call it an anomaly in decay patterns. Locals call it the circle of silence. But no one crosses it twice. A family in Illinois received a photo in the mail. No return address. Just static. Black and white like a broken TV screen. But when held at an angle, buildings appear. A sign that reads, "Welcome to Eastdale." And faces, all looking at the camera. All identical. The family moved a week later and burned the photo. In 1958, a small town 30 miles from Eastdale conducted an emergency drill. No records say why. No sirens, no official alert. Just silence. Citizens stayed indoors for 12 hours. Shutters closed, lights off. One boy said, "Mom said the town was moving again." No drills were conducted in that county before or after. And no one mentions what they saw. A box labeled Eastdale Parade 1955 sat in a Kansas flea market. 8 film still intact. The footage shows children walking down Main Street. Costumes, flags. But every third frame is replaced with a still image. Of an empty road. A door. A void. Experts called it a glitch. But someone overlaid the frames in sequence. The result. A message spelled in shadows. Don't rewind us. A self-published novel in 1973 told the story of Eastdale. In chilling detail. Plot, names, layout. But the final chapter was blank. Printed, numbered. Empty. Readers claimed dreams filled in the rest. Each dream different. Each ending worse than the last. The author was never located. The publisher, out of business a year later. Their records gone. So far, we've gathered fragments. Photos, testimonies, echoes. But no answers. Just questions. What was Eastdale? Why does it refuse to stay gone? And who or what keeps pulling people back in? Next, we follow someone who dared to go deeper. An investigator who crossed the silence line. And what he brought back shouldn't exist. His name was Marcus Vale. Private researcher, paranormal skeptic. He'd heard the Eastdale rumors and called them rural ghost stories. Until he found the map. One from 1952, hand-drawn, marked with red ink. "THUI, all leave." That was enough. Marcus packed gear, rented a van, and headed toward the coordinates. He thought it'd be a 2-day myth-busting trip. He was wrong. Marcus arrived at the edge of the Eastdale forest. The trees were silent, too silent. Even the birds stayed back. His GPS glitched briefly, then corrected. He logged his first entry. Area feels compressed, like altitude sickness at ground level. By nightfall, he reached the boundary ring. The air was colder, and the forest floor, soft like fabric. He set up camp, just outside the circle. At 2:13 a.m., Marcus's motion sensor triggered. No animal, no wind, just one brief frame, a silhouette tall, angular, facing the tent. He rushed out, found nothing, but the sensor was warm to the touch, like someone had held it. He wrote, "Feels like I'm being measured." He didn't sleep the rest of the night. And at dawn, he entered the boundary. The moment Marcus stepped across the dead tree circle, sound changed. Birdsong stopped. Even his footsteps felt muffled. He described the air as thick, slow-moving. He found broken fence posts, a rusted bell, and half-buried a child's shoe. But no animals. No insects. Even time on his watch seemed to drag. Every step deeper pulled like gravity. Then a door creaked in the distance. But there were no structures in sight. At 4:46 p.m., fog rolled in fast. Too fast. Marcus filmed as visibility dropped from 100 feet to 10. And in that grayness, he heard footsteps. 3 behind him. Then 1 beside. But when he turned, nothing. Just mist. He called out. Something whispered back. "Stay for the evening." The voice, his own, played back in reverse. Marcus's radio picked up static again, low, rhythmic. Then tones like Morse code, but reversed. He played it back digitally. The pattern translated to one phrase. "You opened the outline." He searched for a source, and found wires running up a tree. Old, cloth-wrapped, frayed with time. At the top, a speaker. Cracked, dead, but warm to the touch. Something had been broadcasting. The fog lifted briefly, and Marcus saw it. A street, lined with lampposts and cracked sidewalks. No buildings, but foundations like ghost footprints. He walked slowly. The deeper he went, the more detail appeared. Street signs, curb edges, and a sign nailed to a tree. "Welcome back." But Marcus had never been here before. Had he? He tried to mark his path, chalk on trees. But when he turned around, the marks were gone. His compass spun. The street he'd followed. No grass. Every time he looked away, the landscape changed subtly. He whispered into his recorder. This place reorders itself when unobserved. That night he heard music again. From nowhere. From everywhere. In a clearing, Marcus found a single wooden window frame. Standing upright. Through it he saw movement. Children running. A woman with groceries. A car from the 1950s driving by. But when he walked around the frame, there was only forest. Looking through again. It was gone. Only a blank pane now. And a faint reflection. That wasn't his. He found footprints in the dirt, barefoot, child-sized, moving in circles. Then deeper, larger ones. Boot prints. They circled his camp. Marcus replayed his night camera. Nothing appeared, but trees seemed to shift between frames. Just slightly, as if watching. He wrote, "Something here records and rewinds." Then he found a second tent. Identical to his. but empty. Inside the second tent, his journal. Same handwriting, same ink. Entries he hadn't written yet. Day 5, don't eat the fruit. Day 7, don't follow the bells. He hadn't heard any bells. Not yet. He looked around. Everything was exactly like his setup. Down to the bent spoon in the mess kit. He left but didn't zip the flap. Later that evening, the bells began. Soft, metallic, irregular. Distant, then closer. No wind. No sources. Just ringing. He followed once. Just once. Until he saw a child at the tree line. Back turned. Not moving. When he blinked, she was closer. He ran. Back to camp. The bells stopped, but the child's footprints were at his door. Marcus tried to sleep. Set alarms, wrote a log entry before closing his eyes. But when he woke, it was 3 days later. His beard had grown. Supplies were moved, and 7 new entries had been written in his notebook. All in his handwriting. He had no memory of them. Each ended with the same phrase. She comes when you sleep. Marcus played back his recorder, hoping for answers. Instead, a woman's voice whispered throughout the audio. Welcome back, layered beneath his own narration. He ran audio analysis. The voice wasn't echo, wasn't interference. It had a unique pitch curve, and matched no known voice in any sample. Then came the final clip. His own voice saying, "You should not have returned." On day 6, Marcus tried to leave. He walked west, for hours, then north, then east. Every path led back to his tent. Not similar terrain. The exact same layout. His own footprints. Even the same fallen tree. He climbed a hill for a better view. But there was no horizon. Just fog and the faint outline of a town rebuilding itself. Marcus wandered onto a street that hadn't been there before. Sidewalks formed overnight. Mailboxes stood empty. But every house was just framing wooden skeletons half-built. No doors, no glass. And carved into the pavement. No return. He tried to photograph it. But in every photo, the words changed. Each message more desperate. One simply read, "She's almost here." In one house shell, Marcus found a shard of mirror. When he looked into it, he saw her, a girl aged 7 or 8. Hair black, eyes empty. She didn't move, but the reflection blinked. He dropped the mirror, shattered, and from the shards her voice echoed. "Help me remember." He didn't sleep that night. And in the morning, the mirror was whole again. Day 7. Marcus found boot prints alongside his own. Same tread, same stride. He followed them to a ridge, where he saw someone below, wearing his jacket, his backpack, walking just ahead. He called out. The figure turned slightly. No face, just a flat, smooth void. And then it vanished. No sound, no dust, like it had never been there at all. His journal began changing. Words replaced, letters rearranged, entire pages in languages he didn't know. One page read backward phonetically said, "She edits as you forget." Even the timestamps on his voice logs were inconsistent. He said, "I no longer know how long I've been here." Time, memory, they were unraveling, and he didn't know what came next. He found a book in a burned-out structure. No title, just a cover blackened. Inside, blank pages. Until he opened the middle. There, written in his own handwriting, "The only way out is through her." He didn't remember writing it, but his pen was tucked between the pages, and on the inside back cover. Chapter ends when she decides. Then the pages turned by themselves. Winds picked up without clouds, without reason. They circled only Marcus. Dust flew sideways. His hair whipped against unseen currents, and faint voices floated inside the gusts. Whispers, instructions, warnings, but always ending with the same line. She remembers you. He dropped to the ground, covered his ears, but the wind passed straight through him. He tried his camera again, to document what he could, but the screen only showed static, until frames appeared. Faces, unmoving, unblinking, staring at him. Dozens, some children, some not human. He paused the footage and realized each face was captured in the same location. From different angles, they were around him, watching as if he were the one being studied. Dilate. The whispers stopped. Now she speaks. Full sentences, right into his ear, even when nothing's there. She says, "You don't remember the promise. You left us once. We waited." Marcus began repeating her words in his sleep. And in the audio, there were 2 heartbeats, but he was alone. The frames became walls. The outlines became homes. The town rebuilt itself, as if remembering how it once looked. Light returned, pale and flickering. He walked streets that hadn't existed 2 days ago. Now paved, numbered, lined with lanterns. Every door was closed, except one, painted red, and in front of it, a girl waited. Smiling, she said nothing, just pointed. The red door stood slightly ajar. Inside, pure dark. No sound, no air. Marcus hesitated, then stepped through. Immediately, everything stopped. His equipment died. His ears rang, and he felt weightless, not floating, falling through memory, through places he never lived, but remembered anyway. It wasn't a room. It was a void shaped like a house. Objects floated: chairs, books, old shoes, all flickering between forms. Marcus walked carefully. Each step echoed differently. He saw flashes of moments. Children running, fire, a mother crying, and always the same girl watching. Not aging, not blinking, just waiting. She spoke. "You promised you'd take us with you." Then everything turned upside down. The town wasn't forgotten. It was abandoned, left behind, not by the world, by one person. Marcus, decades ago, before memory, before birth. Somehow, he had been here before. The girl repeated, "You said you'd never leave." "You walked out and we stayed." He asked, trembling, "Who are you?" She smiled. "Everything you erased." A massive clock stood in the center of the void. Its hands spun backward, faster with each chime. Each toll showed Marcus a year. 1947, 1939, 1902. The town didn't die. It never existed. It was written in, and then unwritten. He tried to run, but the floor pulled him deeper, into a version of himself he didn't recognize. Suddenly walls returned. A house around him. Wallpaper from the 50s. Smells of dust and bread. Photos lined the shelves. All of him, in different ages, holding children, smiling beside the girl. The town hadn't waited. It had been reliving, over and over, looping, until he came back. Now it could finish. Now it could close. The final page in his notebook was filled. By someone else. Same pen. Different hand. It read, "The town is full again." And beneath it, a new map, with Eastdale drawn clearly. Labeled, connected. He looked up. The houses were whole. The bells rang. And behind him, others began to arrive. Smiling, but never blinking. They came from the fog. 10, then 20. Wearing modern clothes, but with eyes too wide. Too still. Each one whispered the same phrase. We live where memory breaks. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice echoed in reverse. The girl nodded. They've been waiting for you. Not him exactly. Someone like him. A replacement for whoever left last time. Clocks ticked in opposite directions. Streetlights flickered in patterns. Marcus stepped forward and saw his own footprints form ahead of him, as if the road remembered his steps before he made them. In one window he saw himself inside, sitting reading. In another he saw himself leave. Eastdale didn't trap people. It folded them, so they could never live the same way twice. The town grew louder, but not in volume, in direction. Every sound came from the wrong place. Footsteps ahead, but the dust behind. Laughter in his left ear, but breath on his right. A siren played backward on loop. His eardrums pulsed. The distortion wasn't chaos. It was a system. He just hadn't learned to hear it yet. Every doorframe he passed had a name carved in it. Marcus Vale, each in a different handwriting. Some childlike, others chiseled deep like warnings, some already fading. The town had remembered him before he arrived. Now it was writing him in. The girl whispered, "You were always going to return." He didn't respond, because part of him agreed. The ground moved, subtly, like breathing, sidewalks rising, settling, as if the town wasn't built on land, but on something living. He knelt and pressed a hand to the street. It was warm. Then came the heartbeat. 1, 2, echoing through the concrete. Steady, patient, waiting. He stood, and behind him, a shadow moved without casting one. He heard laughter behind a door. Opened it. A family sat at dinner, smiling. Still, when he stepped in, they flickered, like old film catching fire. Their faces melted into static. One child looked directly at him, said, "You were the first to leave." Then the room blinked out. Just walls again. Just dust, and a chair still rocking as if someone had only just stood up. A machine sat at the town's edge. Rusty, massive, labeled disassembler in faded stenciling. Its gears turned slowly on their own. Inside, objects hovered. A shoe, a photo, a human tooth. As Marcus watched, each item unraveled. Not crushed, unwritten. He stepped closer. The machine paused, then whispered in metallic tone, "You are made of recall. Do not enter." He flipped open his journal. New entries had appeared, written in his style, describing things he hadn't seen yet. Do not follow the child at dawn. The sky is not above. And at the bottom of the page, still wet with ink, she forgives you. He hadn't written that, but he wished he had. The clouds froze mid-sky. Raindrops hovered in the air. Wind paused mid-gust. Even the fog held its breath. Marcus looked around. Everything was perfectly still, like a paused simulation. Then from above, the sound of ticking. Not from a clock, but from the trees. They began counting down in creaks. 5, 4, he ran, but time had already started ending. He wiped dust from an old window. Behind the glass, nothing. Just white. But as he leaned closer, words etched themselves into the pane. Hundreds of names. His among them. Then one more appeared. Not scratched, burned in. Witness. He stepped back. His reflection stayed. It blinked once, then turned and walked away. He finally saw them. The originals. The ones who never left. They weren't ghosts. They weren't people. They were placeholders. Memory vessels. Each one stared motionless. Eyes glazed like old dolls. But when he spoke, they all mouthed the same word. Home, then vanished, as if their part in the memory was done. Fire broke out near the square. But no heat, no crackle, just light bending wrong. Like flames made of memory. The buildings didn't burn. They reversed. Beams retracted, walls unbuilt. Smoke rose in spirals, but smelled like ink. One shape emerged from it. The girl again, older now, eyes filled with static. She said only one thing. It's almost time. A bell tower Marcus hadn't seen before appeared in the center of town. Tall, rusted, with 13 bells. Each rang at a different time. Not in sound, but in memory. He remembered things that hadn't happened. A birthday, a promise, an escape. Each chime reshaped him, rewrote a part of him. By the final toll, he didn't remember why he came. Only that he couldn't leave. He found another camera. Old, cracked. Inside, film still loaded. He developed it in a stranger's darkroom. Inside a house that hadn't been built yet. The photos, all of him, from behind, from above, from moments he didn't remember being watched. One photo had a timestamp, dated tomorrow, and he was already gone in it. He found a small radio tower, still humming, hooked up his recorder, spoke one final message. To whoever finds this, Eastdale is not a place. It's a wound. He paused, then added, I'm staying. He turned off the mic and walked toward the sound of bells. Behind him, the signal looped, broadcasting endlessly. We are memory, and memory does not die. A voice called out. Different reel. Another explorer. Female, early 30s. Said her name was Liza. She'd heard Marcus's broadcast. Tracked the signal. She'd seen the town, too. But from the outside. For years. Now she was inside. And things were changing. The sky flickered above them, as if Eastdale had noticed them both, and wasn't sure who to keep. Lisa remembered things Marcus didn't. A schoolhouse, a parade, her childhood birthday party in Eastdale. But she'd never lived here. Not in this life. She showed Marcus an old photo. A girl and a boy in front of the red church. The boy was him. Same face, same eyes. The girl, Liza, but neither could remember when. Only that they'd been here. Long before they ever arrived. The bells rang again, but now in different parts of town. Simultaneous, uneven, like a broken choir. And every time one rang, a building appeared. Owned, lived in, sometimes already decayed. Marcus said, it's trying to fill itself. Liza only nodded, then whispered, what happens when it's full? The sky flickered again, like an old television screen. Lines, blocks, glitches in the clouds. Birds flew but never landed. The sun looped, rising, stalling, setting. In one moment, they watched the same cloud pass 3 times. Eastdale wasn't real. Not completely. It was a copy of itself, a rendering of something lost, but unwilling to stay forgotten. Liza found it first. A door set in a wall of light, pulsing softly. They touched it. It vibrated like a heartbeat. Then opened. On the other side, Troy's normal sky, silent, the way out. But Marcus hesitated. Liza said, "You have to want to leave." He looked back. The town called to him, not with fear, but with something worse. Belonging. The girl stood in the town square. Same eyes, same age. She hadn't moved in days. But when Marcus stepped closer, she blinked and said, "You brought another." Liza froze. The girl stared at her, then smiled. "Good. Now it can choose." Eastdale wasn't just a place. It was an echo looking for permanence. And two minds couldn't leave at once. They tried the door again. But this time, it opened into another Eastdale. Identical, but wrong. Signs in reverse. Grass growing upward. A sky that pulsed red. They'd found not a way out, but a deeper layer. Marcus dropped a flare. It burned green, then inverted. Liza whispered, "We're inside the memory of a memory." The door closed behind them. Now there were 3 versions of Eastdale, all visible from a hilltop. One alive, one dying, one blank. Buildings shimmered, phasing between styles, eras, colors. Liza said, "It's cycling through possibilities." Marcus added, "Looking for what it used to be." They realized something terrible. It wasn't remembering the past. It was auditioning futures. And they were part of the test. For the first time, rain fell. Real cold, heavy. But every drop left marks. Shapes, letters, runes neither of them recognized. Where it touched skin, memories changed. Liza forgot her sister's name. Marcus forgot his home. The rain was cleansing, not of dirt, but of identity. And Eastdale was rewriting them with every storm. She stood beside the bell tower. Older now, her eyes swirled like storm glass. She told them, "You left us because you feared what we became. Now you must stay, or forget again." Liza asked, "Who are you?" The girl answered, "I am the version of you that never left." And in that moment, Marcus remembered everything. And none of it was his. A stone wall stood at the town's edge, covered in names. Dozens, hundreds, some carved, some burned in. Marcus found his. Liza found hers. Then saw a third. A name neither had spoken aloud, but both recognized. Carved in the oldest stone. Vale 1874. Eastdale didn't start in the 50s. It had existed, and failed, many times before. All 3 Eastdales began to fold. Buildings fell in reverse. People froze mid-step. The sky fractured, then silence, like breath before a scream. The town began consuming itself. Not burning, but collapsing inward like a dying star. Liza shouted, "We triggered the loop reset." Marcus said nothing, because he saw what was forming in the void. A 4th Eastdale, untouched, waiting to be lived. Everything surged. Every thought, every face, all the versions of them that had ever entered Eastdale. All returned at once, like tidal waves of past selves. Memories not theirs played behind their eyes. Birth, deaths, fires, farewells. and the final echo from the sky. Choose what remains. The town, or you. Marcus grabbed Liza's hand. Said one word. No. They stepped forward. Toward the gap between loops. Toward the place that wasn't mapped. The place that Eastdale hadn't rendered yet. And in that moment, time paused. The bells held their breath. And the town waited. Not for destruction, but for decision. A shape began to form. Not a road out, but a door in. They walked through the threshold. And vanished. Not into death. Into story. Because Eastdale was never a town. It was a book that wrote people back. Each visitor a sentence. Each decision punctuation. And now with two minds merged. The town had its authors. Its ending. And maybe its next beginning. Because something still watches the border. Waiting for the next reader. To turn the page. After the rewrite, silence. No town. No sky. Just white. Marcus opened his eyes alone. No Liza. No door. Only a desk. A book. And a blank page with his name above it. The ink pulsed, waiting. Eastdale wasn't gone. It was dormant. Until he wrote again. Elsewhere, Liza awoke in her apartment. Everything looked right. Familiar. Except a photo on her wall. She wasn't in it. But Marcus was. Standing by the church in Eastdale. Smiling. She didn't remember putting it there. But when she looked closer, the photo's edges burned inward. Like something didn't want it to remain. A knock on Liza's door. A package. No name. Inside, Marcus's journal. Full. Every page completed. But the ink was still drying. One final line. You're next. She flipped to the back. A hand-drawn map. Same coordinates. Same ring of trees. Only this time. The note said, "It's spreading." Liza checked satellite maps. The coordinates now showed faint outlines. Foundations. Like Eastdale was real again. Not in memory, but in the world. Other forums lit up. Other names. Other sightings. People seeing glimpses of towns not on maps. One user wrote, "It's not haunting us. It's migrating." She visited the site again. Forest, but not untouched. Trees older than they should be. A wind chime made from teeth. And a soft hum beneath her feet. Like electricity or breath. Her phone glitched. Her compass spun. The signs were all returning. Eastdale hadn't been erased. It had been paused. And someone just hit resume. That night her radio clicked on by itself. Marcus's voice. Clear, different, older. "Liza, you were right. We weren't supposed to leave alone." Then silence. Then static. Then her own voice answering. But she hadn't said anything yet. A loop. A message from the future. Lord, had she already gone back? In her city, a new alley appeared overnight. Not marked on any map. Dead end. But with a street sign that read, Eastdale Ave. She walked halfway in. Street lights flickered. Air tasted like dust and static. She turned back, but the entrance was gone. Only brick. Then a voice behind her. Found you. She ran, but her shadow stayed where it was. A new researcher began asking questions. A podcaster. Young, curious. He found Liza's blog. Asked about Marcus. About Eastdale. She said nothing, but her eyes told the truth. He posted one episode, then vanished. His last audio log ended with a question. Can a town remember you? Before you're born. Digital cartographers found new data anomalies. Patches of ghost roads, structures with no zoning, populated airspace over empty ground. Each matched a location from Marcus's journal. No one could explain it, but someone began connecting them. A ring, a pulse, not one town, but many, each a version, each a test, and at the center, Eastdale, every frequency, every radio band. One phrase kept repeating, soft, almost a whisper. She lives in the gaps. She lives in the gaps. Over and over. Even shortwave encrypted military lines caught it. And then it stopped. No source found. No trace left. Only a single transcript sent to Liza. With a sticky note. You opened something. Security cameras began glitching. Not full failure. Just flickers. Frames of faces. Peering into lenses. Unblinking. Then vanishing. Always the same girl. But older. And others behind her. More and more. Building. One technician muted his monitor, terrified. But the feed kept playing. In silence. And the faces never looked away. Someone tried to destroy the map. Set it on fire. But it didn't burn. It inverted. Ash formed lines. New coordinates. A new location hundreds of miles away. But the same name. Eastdale, as if it had been waiting for a new body. New ground. It doesn't die. It migrates. And once drawn, it draws back. Liza opened the journal again. One final page had appeared. No words, just a drawing of her standing at the edge of Eastdale. Behind her, hundreds of doors. Some open, some closed, and one marked you. She touched the page, and the ink moved, spelling a final message. You were never outside. Satellite footage showed buildings appearing overnight. No crews, no plans, just structures, and always a bell tower. Governments denied it. Locals stopped talking, but drone pilots stopped flying near it. Compass failure, sensor melt. They marked it as a dead zone. But something moves inside. A girl, a desk, a book, and names being added. Every night, Eastdale is no longer missing. It's multiplying, becoming something more. It doesn't haunt, it remembers, and when enough names return, it will open fully. Every vanished town, every misremembered place, every dream of somewhere familiar. But wrong, they all lied here. And someone just opened the door again. The bells are ringing. The story has restarted. In a sealed university archive, a file was unboxed. Dusty, fragile. It contained Marcus's handwriting. Dated 1875. But the ink was modern. Same name, same signature. The page read. We tried erasing it. It reappears with different clothes. And at the bottom, one final plea. If you find this, forget you found it. Researchers using frequency analysis discovered voices embedded in Eastdale's old audio logs. Whispers layered beneath whispers. Every decade, different dialects, different names, all repeating one phrase. This place chose you. Some voices sounded ancient. Others hadn't spoken yet. It wasn't a haunting. It was a timeline fracture, looping until someone rewrote the end correctly. Reports began flooding forums. Same description. A wooden door, freestanding, in an alley, or a basement, or inside a moving train. Always the same words etched in metal. Eastdale waits. People who opened it. Some returned. Most didn't. Those who did never spoke again, just listened and waited for the knock. An encrypted folder surfaced online. Inside footage, thousands of clips from unknown cameras, all different locations, but the same anomaly. A bell tower, in places where it shouldn't exist. Each file was titled like a chapter. None had endings, and one folder newly added bore Lisa's name. It was still uploading, and someone somewhere was still writing. A man knocked on Lisa's door, said nothing, just handed her a mirror. In the glass, her reflection, and Marcus behind her. She turned. No one there. The man smiled. You've been here longer than you remember. Then walked into the street and disappeared. No prints, no shadow, just the mirror and her breathing. Slower than before. Each night Liza dreams of a chalkboard. Blank, until names begin appearing. Thousands, each with a time beside it. All leading to now. She sees her name last, then hears the bells, and the voice of the girl. Softer now, closer, this is your chapter. She wakes and finds chalk dust on her hands. In a forgotten library wing, a shelf appeared. Books with no titles, just symbols on the spine. One opened on its own. A page flipped and showed a drawing of her, standing where no camera had ever captured, wearing clothes she hadn't owned. Yet, behind her a new door waited. Not marked exit, but next draft. She stood in front of a new version of the town. It hadn't formed yet, just outlines, awaiting instruction. She held Marcus's journal, closed it, and whispered, "No more loops." The town paused, flickered, then stopped moving. For the first time, it waited, not to trap, but to be told what to be. Eastdale was listening. She opened a blank notebook, wrote one sentence. Eastdale remembers what we choose to forget. Then more. Buildings, names, a sky that stayed still. And no bells. Each word reshaped the streets. Reality unknotted. The fog lifted, and for a moment, the world outside aligned. She wasn't escaping the town. She was rebuilding it, word by word. Now Eastdale had houses, families, but no loops, no ghosts. People arrived without forgetting, and chose to stay, not out of fear, but belonging. It wasn't haunted. It was healed, at least for now, because even rewritten towns have editors. And stories always drift toward the strange again. You're listening to this now, but part of you already knows it. You've driven past towns you can't name, seen doors where none should be, heard a bell at night, with no tower. Eastdale is just one name, one mask, and if it calls to you, you've already answered. Eastdale isn't alone. There are others, reflections, versions built from regret, places lost not by time, but by memory. They speak to each other, in static, in dreams, and one day they may merge into a world slightly too quiet, slightly too perfect, where the doors creak before you reach them, and the street knows your name. In a government basement, a drawer was opened, unlabeled, inside a single map. No state borders, just pins, dozens of them, each labeled with a name crossed out, then replaced with Eastdale. Someone was tracking it, or planting it, but the drawer is locked again, and no one remembers who held the key. Somewhere, a bell rings, not in your town, not in any town, but just close enough to hear. It echoes faintly, a note not in any known key. You pause, look around. There's nothing there. But still, you feel watched. Because the bell doesn't summon. It marks, and maybe, just maybe, it's your chapter next. You've reached the end. But something remains. You want to save this story. Share it, replay it. But remember, every time it's told, it spreads. And Eastdale listens. It watches who listens, and rewrites who tells. So if you're thinking of bookmarking this, ask yourself, did you find Eastdale? Or did it find you? Lisa returned to the notebook. A new page had formed, but this time no ink. Just faint impressions like pressure without writing. She held it to the light, and the message revealed itself. This time ended. She closed the cover, and the wind outside stopped. No whispers, no bells. Eastdale had paused, waiting for her final sentence. In the center of town, the girl now sat, eyes closed, breathing slowly, a child-shaped memory. She didn't speak, didn't move, just waited. Lisa asked quietly, "Are you still watching?" No answer, but the clouds above her shifted, forming one word. Right. Eastdale would not disappear. But maybe it could forget. All doors in Eastdale were closed, except one. It stood in the center of a field, facing every direction at once. No hinges, no handle, only a message. If you open this, you stay. Liza didn't touch it, just stood still, and whispered, "I already stayed too long." The door turned slowly, and faced her, like it had made a choice. Lisa followed the edges of town, looking for roads, exits, anything. She found a street labeled Remain, and another again. Every path curved inward. Eastdale had no edge, only center. She stopped walking, closed her eyes, and thought of silence. And when she opened them, there was no town, no sky, just her, and the sound of a pen writing. She saw him, Marcus, standing beside a streetlight, smiling. He didn't speak, didn't need to, because she remembered. They'd both left before, long ago, but Eastdale wasn't punishing them. It was asking, "Will you carry us forward?" He nodded, faded, and for once, no echoes followed. The wind came once, just once, brushed the grass, shook the bells, lit the lamps. Every structure shimmered, then held, not a collapse, not a rebirth, just a breath, like Eastdale finally exhaled. And in that moment, Liza knew it didn't want to vanish, only to be remembered differently. The radio clicked on by itself again. This time no voice, just one sound, a heartbeat, steady, then slowing, then silent. Eastdale's pulse, its echo, gone. She packed her gear, turned once more to the center, and whispered, "Rest now." The static faded, the tower darkened, and the notebook turned cold. Weeks later, a new atlas was printed. One page showed a town, unmarked, but clear, trees, a bell tower, a red door. Cartographers called it a glitch. No one claimed responsibility. But on that same day, hundreds of phones buzzed, with a calendar invite titled, "Visit her." No sender, no app, and no way to delete it. She left the forest. No fog, no misdirection. Just a path, straight, real. Eastdale behind her. Silent, but not gone. In town, people asked where she'd been. She smiled. Nowhere. But I brought something back. No one asked what. But some began dreaming differently that night. And one woke up, with chalk dust under his nails, on Lisa's laptop an unsent draft. To no one. No subject. Just 4 words. I found the rewrite. She closed it. Never hit send. But the message still showed as delivered. And across the world, someone else opened a blank document and began typing. First line, this town isn't lost, just misfiled. Eastdale is gone, but only in the way smoke disappears. Still lingering in clothes, still clinging to old film. It remains in questions, in static, in the feeling someone's walked beside you, even when no one has. Not haunted, just unclosed, waiting for another sentence. Another bell, another wrong turn, at the edge of a familiar map. Back in Harwood County, the old librarian passed away. Her final note read, I didn't keep Eastdale hidden. I kept it whole. Her key was mailed to Liza. No return address. It opened nothing, but on contact, the radio in Liza's home crackled once more and whispered, one last story left to file. Then silence, then a page flipping itself. Each night Liza dreams of a child. Not the girl, a boy, drawing towns in sand, wiping them clean, starting again. He turns to her, says, make this one stay. She always nods. And every morning, another email arrives from an unknown sender. Subject line, welcome to Eastdale. Attachment, blank. We think we forget towns. We think they vanish. But some places refuse to be forgotten. They rewrite themselves into us. In silence, in dreams, in coordinates that show up again. Eastdale is proof. Not that ghosts are real, but that memory is. And it always wants a home. Somewhere near you. A door has appeared. You might pass it, or feel it, or only notice when a sound plays. A bell, faint, off-key. You'll pause, maybe smile, or maybe turn away. But know this, the town never disappeared. It waited, and with your attention, with your curiosity, it's now remembered. A small town in Nebraska lost power for 1 minute. When the lights came back, 2 houses were gone. Not destroyed, erased, no debris, no land records. Neighbors claimed nothing was ever there. But Google Street View from last year shows both homes clearly. One had a mailbox, the other, a bell. New GPS anomalies are reported across 5 states. Short roads that loop in impossible curves. Trails that double back then vanish. Each leads to an unmarked spot. And a whisper in the wind. Same phrase, always the same. Welcome back. Investigators try to triangulate the signal. But every attempt redirects to the same conclusion. The source isn't in one place. It's in memory. Psychologists begin documenting Eastdale syndrome. Patients report vivid memories of towns no one else recalls. Full details, street names, childhood friends. None exist in public record. Some draw maps from memory, and they match each other's. Experts call it collective false memory. But the patterns are too precise, too real. One doctor writes, they're not remembering wrong. They're remembering early. Liza receives a box. Inside her nameplate, a journal, and a sealed envelope. No return address. She opens it. 1 page. Your shift begins now. The journal is blank. The key from Harwood fits perfectly into its spine. Pages flip. Maps begin to form. Dates she hasn't lived through yet. Eastdale has chosen its new keeper. An investigative podcast goes viral. Title: Towns That Never Were. Episodes explore vanished streets, ghost post offices, lost school records. Then episode 6 drops. Eastdale. 24 hours later, the entire feed vanishes. No backups, no metadata. Only a voicemail left for one subscriber. You've listened too far forward. We're not done writing yet. In London, an Atlas printing facility halts mid-production. A staffer flagged a page showing a U.S. town not in the master file. They halted presses, traced the origin. It wasn't user error. The plate had engraved itself. In perfect typeset. Eastdale. No one claims responsibility. The editor resigns and leaves a handwritten note. Maps don't lie. They remember. A traveler checks into room 213. Window view: a bell tower. But when she checks the town map, there's no church nearby. That night she hears bells at 1:13 a.m. Looks out. Nothing. But her bathroom mirror steams a message. You are early. The front desk says she never checked in. But her card was charged. For 3 nights. All in Eastdale. A novelist wakes from a vivid dream. She scribbles a new outline. A town with no end. Characters who forget their characters. And a bell that tolls. Backwards. She publishes the book. Sells thousands. Then disappears. The publisher receives a final message. Don't write about her again. She's reading now. A child draws a town in art class. Detailed, precise. With labels like old grocery and house that folds. The teacher is stunned. The boy has never left the city. His parents don't recognize the names. But the blueprint matches aerial scans of a location that hasn't existed for 60 years. He only says, "She told me how it used to be." Late-night security footage shows a shimmer. Then a bell, old, hanging midair. It rings once. Cameras freeze for 4 minutes. When playback resumes, the bell is gone. But a new door appears in the building's blueprint. One that wasn't built. One that leads nowhere. Except on paper. It's labeled, "Exit to Eastdale." An 11-year-old submits a short story. About a town where people don't age. Where every name is already known. Where doors appear when you say, "Remember." The teacher asks where she got the idea. She shrugs. "My grandma told me. But she's been gone since I was born." The story ends with 5 words. She's the bell now. At exactly 3:33 a.m., power fails across 9 counties. Only one transmission cuts through. A tone, like a bell, then a voice. Don't turn away. The town sees you. Grid restored in seconds. But during the blackout, 13 users across different states all wrote the same sentence into blank documents. "This is where I stayed last time." A tourist finds a wooden frame on a hill. Looks like a window. No glass. But when viewed at sunset, an entire town appears behind it. Still, gray, like a paused VHS. When she blinks, it's gone. She returns weeks later. It's still there, but the frame now reads, "You left this open." A researcher closes his laptop for the night. But it powers on by itself. A file transfers. No sender. Just a folder named Eastdale Memory Copy 10. He opens it. Only one document. Inside, every name he's ever forgotten. even ones he swears he never knew. At the bottom, uploaded by L. Vale, and the sound of bells begins. At dusk, someone walks a gravel road. Dust in the air. Trees too quiet. They pass a wooden sign. Welcome to Eastdale. No fear. No resistance. They were expected. They are not the first. They will not be the last. Because every forgotten place eventually remembers you. And once it does, it always leaves the door unlocked. A woman receives a postcard. No return address. Front image, a town square. Generic. Until she notices herself blurred in a crowd. On the back, one sentence. You never left. The postmark. Eastdale. Stamped last week. But the town, according to all records, was decommissioned in 1959. And she's never been to that state. Or so she thought. A Freedom of Information request uncovers sealed files. Dozens of towns removed from maps between 1940 and 1980. Each flagged E-pattern. The language is vague, but one memo reads, erase roads, leave memory intact. Another, if Eastdale surfaces again, notify department immediately. It wasn't the only one, just the first to return. And this time, it came prepared. A retired teacher finds an old roll sheet. Students she doesn't remember teaching. Handwriting is hers. Grades perfect. She looks up one name online. No record. Tries another. Same. At the bottom, a stamped line. Transferred Eastdale Unified School District. She never worked there, but one child drew her. In a classroom she doesn't remember. With bells in the background. A lost reel from the 1955 Eastdale parade resurfaces online. But now, it's longer. Includes scenes no one remembers filming. Different buildings, different people, same faces, older. Each time someone watches, the runtime increases. One viewer left this comment. It's not a recording. It's growing. Another simply wrote, pause it and they see you. Linguists studying static bursts on shortwave radios discover patterns. Repeating, symmetrical, mapped they form symbols. Translated, they speak through forgetting. The same symbols appear in caves, on crumbling school walls, etched into desks across unrelated cities. All tied to towns erased from official record. Somewhere something is rebuilding its alphabet. And it starts with your name. A museum exhibit opens. Vanished Americana. One wall features a plaque titled Eastdale. But no object. Just space. Visitors report headaches. Faint whispers. A few hear bells. The museum denies the exhibit existed. No ticket logs. No signage. But dozens remember being there. Some still dream of it. Especially the empty case. Still waiting to be filled. An online map tool glitches. Users drop pins. The names self-correct. One location. No matter where you drop it. Labels itself Eastdale. Tech support says it's an internal test zone. But no developer admits adding it. Even offline systems start to autofill the name. A software update is pushed. But the label remains. Bold, italicized, permanent. A woman wakes with a small tattoo. She's never had one before. It's a bell, cracked. Her husband swears it was always there. But photos from last week show blank skin. That night she dreams of a door. And in the morning, she knows a street name. From a place she's never visited. But always knew. A cryptic email hits inboxes worldwide. Subject, forget to remember. Inside, a single coordinate. Click it. It shows a black screen, then vanishes. Moments later, the entire email deletes itself. No trash, no recovery. But some recipients claim they started seeing roads where none existed. And all of them now hear bells in silence. A gust blows through a field, but the wind carries static. Not leaves, not dust, sound. A radio technician drives past, records it, slows it down, reverses. The message is clear. Name yourself and enter. No address, no path, just memory, turning into direction. Every myth has an author. Every haunted place a record keeper. But Eastdale writes itself, then waits for someone to edit. You've been listening. You've followed it this far. So ask yourself, are you the reader or the next writer? Because the pen is warm. On the page, still blank. In a thrift store, someone finds a clock. No hands, but it ticks. Loud, irregular. The owner says it arrived unmarked. No one remembers donating it. But behind the clock face, a town etched in miniature. One word beneath it. Eastdale. When wound, the ticking stops. And a bell rings. A metal fence runs through a forest, no gate, no purpose. Hikers discover it. Follow it for miles. It ends at a wooden sign. Nothing beyond here. But when they return, their compasses point south. Back toward the sign. And some notice their footprints. Lighting deeper, even though no one remembers walking that way. A new voice joins the archive. Writes this story. Knows the words before saying them. Because they were written already. Your name is added. One more line. One more weight on the shelf. Eastdale doesn't need to exist. Not physically. Only in rotation. One town. 1,000 forms. Every time it's told, it becomes real again. And now, it's your turn. Do you hear that? Low, distant, like a bell in fog. It's not in your room. Not outside. It's below memory. And above denial. That sound means you've crossed over. Maybe not with your feet, but with attention. And Eastdale, it knows attention is the door. So don't close this yet. It's still listening. A new podcast appears. No intro, no hosts. Just static. 10 seconds in. A bell, then silent. The file's length. Exactly 33 minutes and 33 seconds. No voice, but listeners report dreams after. Each episode slightly different. One message buried deep in waveform. Keep listening. There is no episode 2. But it's still updating. A toddler speaks their first word. Not mama, not Dada, but Eastdale. Parents are confused. They've never said that name. There's no book with it. No show. But the child draws the bell tower in crayon. With 13 windows. Exactly. Each time they say it, a light flickers in the kitchen. And no one's touching the switch. An experimental filmmaker plays found footage at a gallery. Old streets, unlabeled homes, soft wind, a crowd gathers, then goes silent. The clip ends with a door slowly opening. Half the guests cry. The other half leave and never return. The projector melts the reel. But one frame remains. Someone's shadow, looking back at you. A town near Eastdale hears a bell. It rings once an hour, then twice, then 5, then non-stop. No source found. The sound isn't coming from anywhere. It's coming from memory. People hum it in their sleep. Children tap its rhythm at recess. One resident writes, "The bell toll isn't counting time. It's counting listeners." IT specialists find a virus. Not in code, in thought, a meme, a phrase, a name, passed from inbox to inbox. Eastdale is open. No links, no payload, just the sentence. Once read, users report deja vu. Then dreams. Then the urge to map things that don't exist. It spreads fast, because it doesn't ask permission. Just attention. Security teams monitor interference in satellite images. One frame shows a shape. Not quite human, not quite machine, but always standing in the same place. A clearing where Eastdale once sat. Zooming in reveals more detail. It's made of names. Thousands. Yours is among them. But blurred, as if waiting to be fully written. Fishermen see light in open sea. A lighthouse, but no shore. They follow it, find nothing, but one snaps a photo. Weeks later, they check the image. Not ocean, a bell tower, half submerged, no reflection, just a caption written in fog. She moved the town, because Eastdale doesn't stay in place. It stays where you forget to look. An architect submits blueprints for a new subdivision. His firm rejects them. Too strained, curved buildings, odd room numbers. But a week later, a drone flyover shows the layout already exists. Same angles, same roads. He has no memory of drawing it. But one phrase is printed beneath the master plan. Approved by Eastdale Planning Authority. No such entity exists. Not anymore. You take a selfie. Alone. Later you zoom in. Your eyes slightly off. Not red-eye. Not blur. Just wrong. Tilted. As if someone else inside you was looking out. Filters won't fix it. Apps crash when cropped. And the file name auto-renames. Eastdale Final JPG. You never typed that. But the photo saves itself. You forget someone's name. Someone close. A neighbor. Friend. You can picture their smile. But not their face. Your mind tries to rewrite it. Fills in a town. A skyline you don't recognize. You dream of street signs. You wake up with dust on your feet. You haven't left the house. But something walked through you. They're everywhere now. Not ghosts, not residents. Witnesses. The ones who saw Eastdale. And remember too clearly. They don't talk, just observe. At bus stops, on rooftops, in mirrors. You've seen one. You looked away. But they didn't. They watched your name form. And wrote nothing. Because your chapter is still in draft. In a forest, hikers hear a choir. No words, just tones. Perfect harmony. They follow it. Find nothing. But their phones now hum at 432 Hz. Constant, even when off. One technician isolates the waveform. It's not a song. It's a blueprint. For a town, not yet built, but already remembered. A radio station broadcasts dead air. No host, no playlist, just silent. But listeners call in. They say they hear things. Their own names, their street, a bell, no tower, just the sound of being watched kindly. One caller leaves a final message. I think the town is teaching us how to listen again. You find a door, alone, in a hallway, no sign, no number. You don't open it, but you know what's behind it. Not a room, not an answer, just a familiar road. You've walked it before. You've told yourself it was a dream. It was, and now, The doorknob turns. This isn't an ending. It's an invitation. Eastdale doesn't disappear. It waits, in stories, in signals, in the way your memory stutters when naming forgotten places. You know one now. You've followed it, heard the bells, felt the pull, and with this final word, you are part of it, not a viewer, not a listener, a resident. You receive an envelope. No name, no stamp, inside a folded map. Not of a place, but of a memory. Your handwriting is on it, except you didn't write it. At the bottom, a note. Turn around. You do. Nothing there, except the faint sound of a bell ringing from inside the page. You pause mid-sentence. What were you saying? The thought gone. In its place, a shape, a street, a tower. You've never been there, but you've always known it. That blank moment, that static in the brain. It's not forgetfulness. It's Eastdale, checking in. In basements, garages, abandoned halls. People gather. No lighter, no agenda. Just candles, and the same phrase whispered. We stay so they don't vanish again. They never name the town, but they know it. They keep it alive. And with each meeting, the bells ring once more. Only inside them, a collective dream spreads, shared by people across countries. A walk down a quiet street. Familiar, wrong, always ending at a red door. Some wake in tears, some in awe. All remember the same sound as they turn the knob. A voice whispering, page complete, and then silence, until the next night. Construction begins. A bell tower, same design, different town. Locals say it's part of a restoration project. But no records exist. No plans, no budget. And when it's finished, the bell rings 13 times. Once for each name on a plaque. But no one reads them aloud. Because those names are still listening. An archivist restores a damaged VHS. Blank label, rewinds, plays 30 minutes of an empty town. Then static, but in that silence, a shadow moves behind the screen. Impossible, but real. Frame by frame analysis shows. You're standing in Eastdale. You've never filmed anything. But the tape knows otherwise. Dust on your window spells something. 3 words. Find the fingertip trace. You wipe it away. But later, the same words appear in your mirror. Then on your phone screen. Then in your inbox. We remember you. It's not a threat. It's an invitation. And no, you remember them too. You meet someone. They say they're from a town you've never heard of. You search for it. Find nothing. They give you directions anyway. Back roads. Unmarked turns. At the end, a sign. Welcome back. You look behind you. There's no car. No road. Only footsteps. Already printed. In your size. You return to the story. The same one. You scroll down. Looking for the end. It isn't there. A blinking cursor. Still waiting. You try to stop thinking about Eastdale. But it's already written its next scene. It just needs your attention. Your voice. Your memory. To close the chapter. You'd have to forget it. But now, it remembers you. In an empty government basement. One door swings open by itself. Dust falls like snow. Inside, shelves. Labeled towns. Marked redrawn. All laid to one folder. Eastdale. But when you open it, your own photo is inside. And beneath it, a note. You helped us stay alive. Signed, everyone you almost forgot. This isn't deja vu. This is design. You didn't stumble onto this. You followed a line of bells, of streets, of stories, and when you pressed play, Eastdale reopened. Not to haunt, to continue. Now the town is complete. Not because it exists, but because you stayed. To see how it ends. One last bell rings. Longer, lower. You feel it in your teeth. Not loud, but permanent. Somewhere a door shuts. Somewhere else, one opens. You'll hear it later. On a road trip. In a quiet hallway. Or mid-sentence. And when it does, you'll smile. Not in fear, but recognition. Because now, you are Eastdale too. This story has no credits. No cast. No timestamp. Just static. And the faint sound of a notebook closing. Somewhere out there, someone else presses play. Reads a map. Wakes from a dream. And begins again. So when they ask you if Eastdale was real, say this: I don't remember. Then listen. If you hear the bell, you were never supposed to leave.